Hello readers, I'm Amy and today I am doing a standalone book review for Jamaica Inn, which I guess if I'm doing this video I should probably actually grab my book. Alright, for the sake of this video I just grabbed all of my Daphne du Mauriers. I am trying to collect these editions, maybe some more of these. So I have read so far Rebecca, Jamaica Inn, and My Cousin Rachel. I've also read 2 of her short story collections, Don't Look Now and Other Stories, as well as The Birds and Other Stories. And I'm just gonna pop most of these over here so you can kind of see Jamaica Inn, and I should probably scoot. So this was a buddy read with Hillary from Melted Books. I think I sent this book to her a little after Christmas and we finally got a chance to read it. Of all of the Daphne du Maurier books that people discuss, her 3 big ones being Rebecca, My Cousin Rachel, and Jamaica Inn, I feel like Rebecca and Jamaica Inn are the most widely read or the most discussed. That's just from videos and stuff that I have seen. Jamaica Inn, between those 3, is definitely my least favorite. That's not to say that I didn't enjoy the book, because I did. It's a good book, it's solid, I love Daphne du Maurier, but it wasn't my favorite of the 3. And a note if you are interested in reading this book. I know there's lots of different opinions on this whole it was the time sort of argument, which is definitely something I think I should look more into myself. But when it comes to differing abilities and differing conditions, it's just not something that I really see talked about in classic books. This video is not really for that discussion, but Jamaica Inn includes an albino character who is very much villainized throughout this entire book. He's described as creepy looking and ghostly and pale and all sorts of stuff. Very villainized, not great, but it's there. And then there's one character that we hear a mention of. The only way that he is ever described to us, we don't know what he looks like, we don't know what he acts like. All we know is that he's referred to as the idiot. And at one point he gets chased down by this group of men who's running after the idiot. And because of that specific word, it makes me think that it might be a character with Down syndrome, because I feel like that's a term that is generally used for them in classic books. It could be some other mental health condition that we just haven't been told about. But be aware, that is very much present in Jamaica Inn. So in that case, it was also the more problematic of her books that I have read, but I did thoroughly enjoy this. So you have this girl whose dad died like years ago or left or something, and her mom recently died, and she's like, well, I need a fresh restart. I don't know what to do with myself as an adult, so she decides that she's going to move in with her aunt. The last time she saw her aunt was newly married, and she was living with her husband who owned this inn. She's like, I'll go live at the inn with them. And she gets there and ends up her aunt is in an extremely abusive relationship. So if you're sensitive to domestic abuse, tread lightly with this book. There's not, I wouldn't say there's really a lot of details for the abuse. Like, you know that it happened. You know that he's a heavy drinker. You know that he's emotionally and verbally abusive, but there's not really any physical violence that we're seeing between him and his wife. Not a heavy feature. So for all the talk about domestic violence, it's not necessarily in your face in the book, but be aware that the book contains that. And this guy has some sort of smuggling ring that he is running out of the inn and has a bad reputation, and she's trying to survive at this inn around these really just bad, awful people, and her goal is to help her aunt escape, which that's not really discussed in the book, and I think it would have created a great like side story. But you always hear of the main character, Mary, who's like, I'm doing this for my aunt. I have to talk to my aunt. I have to find out how to get my aunt out of this situation. And throughout the story, she's not really escaping herself. She's sticking around the inn because that's what she knows and she's trying to plan. But it's not that easy to escape from an abusive relationship, you know? And with her aunt, it's like it didn't really discuss how attached her aunt was to her husband and how that relationship worked for her. So lots of different angles on this, and for a classic book, which it's a modern classic, not like a classic, it was written in the 1900s, but for a classic book, I think it goes a lot darker than I'm used to classic books going. She is more of a gothic writer, and that is something that I really love about her. I love her gothic style of writing. Gothic classics are something that have just traditionally worked really, really well for me. After talking about this book, Hillary did actually go to the library to pick up the movie, which was done by Alfred Hitchcock, but she said that she'd heard it was one of his worst ones. And she watched it and she's like, this movie is trash. And it's interesting because I never hear anything that bad about Alfred Hitchcock, so I'm like, was he new to films? Did he not care about this film? What led to that being the worst film? But apparently just everything about it was awful. But also I kind of want to watch it, but I'm not a big movie person, so I don't know why I would do that to myself. But anyways, this is just, I guess, a quick discussion on Jamaica Inn. I don't have too much more to say about it, but it didn't seem to fit in my actual wrap-up because I wanted to talk about it so much. So, let me know if you've read it. Let me know your favorite Daphne du Maurier, what you would recommend I read from her next. So please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media. I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.